Hi, this is Cheryl, back with you from Farmhouse Frugally, and today I have a number of wooden projects for you. This first one being a shoe shine kit that I got, believe it or not, at my dump. It was a little wonky for the latch, and unfortunately somebody wrote with permanent ink and put tape and any number of things all over it, so it took a little to get it clean. Then I took it outside and I sanded the entire exterior, and I am so surprised at how beautiful that it came out. Now the interior had, of course, had shoe polish and other things on it, so definitely had to lighten and brighten and clean that up. Wouldn't come clean with just antibacterial wipes, so I decided to just paint that with 2 coats of a cream color. Initially, I thought I was actually going to have to paint the entire box until it sanded up so lovely, so then I had to rethink what I wanted to do with the exterior. I decided to take out the Stays On ink and the different stamps that I had, and I've gotten them from all over the place, Amazon, IOD, Etsy, but basically I just wanted to just stamp the entire box with a bunch of different stamps to make it almost look like it was one of those trunks from years gone by that had kind of made it through the traveling on a train or, whatever. So that was kind of the feel that I was going for. And I didn't want to just put shoe shine on it. So I decided to just put the word fancy feet on the front, and then take a bunch of different stamps that I had on hand and stamp with some script and some airmail and some I see Paris stamps and other things all over all 3 sides and the top. And then once I was completely done stamping the entire thing, I had to fix the latch, and that was a pretty easy fix. And then when I was finished with that, then I decided that I did want to sand a little bit of the stamped parts, just so that it didn't look so like I stamped it today. So basically I did kind of go over some of it with that, and then I just took a wipe and wiped all the dust off of that. So now it was nice and clean and stamped. And then all I decided to do after that was to just take my antique wax mixed with clear wax and mixed with warm water, and just go ahead and sort of stain this box to give it a nice finish, a little drink, and also change up the color so that it didn't have that raw wood look, but it actually had a little bit of an aged vintage look to it. And I did that all over the entire box except for the feet and the shoe thing at the top. Now, I am not certain, it's raining so you can hear my traffic. I am not certain if I love the next thing. I may end up changing this, but what I did was I just took a Java brown chalk paint over the 4 feet and the little shoe thing on the top to give it a dark base. And then I dry brushed over all of that with the same cream color that I used on the interior of the box to give that a lighter, brighter look. I was trying to stay in the browns because of the stain color on the box. But actually, I think after I got the whole thing done and I took some pictures, I was looking at it saying, I think maybe I might go back and I might actually paint the feet and the shoe thing on the top in black. So after taking a more creamy linen color over the brown and distressing it, this is what it looks like. And I kept it that way for a couple of days, and then decided that I did, in fact, want to paint it black and see how I would feel about that. So I did, and here it is black. So let me know which of these 2 you prefer. And today's challenge is part of a What Would You Make open invite, and our host and guest host are OK at Home DIY, Connie's Wood Shop, and Six Kids and a Glue Gun is the co-host this month. I will put that information in the description box, as well as the playlist of all the other creators who have joined today's challenge. So make sure you check that out at the end of this video. That takes me on to this sweet little basket that I got at my dump. It was a little dirty. I think somebody had a plant in it on their porch or something. So I did clean that as good as I could. And then I took that same linen paint and went over the whole thing pretty much with a dry brush, and getting down into the little grooves of the wood pieces that were separated. I did decide to paint the interior of the basket, given that I was unable to get it 100% clean, and I wasn't sure what would be going inside of the basket. So once I got the entire thing painted inside and outside, then I was looking around to see what my options were to put on the exterior. I could hang a hang tag, I could fill it with florals, I could do something. I have these stamped pieces of drop cloth left over, and I could adhere them, but I chose a part of an IOD transfer that I had left over from a transfer that I had bought at least a year ago, and there were a couple pieces left that I had not used, and just cut out the part that I wanted, keeping the rest of it for yet another project. So that's what's really great about these transfers, is how far they can go, especially if you have small projects. Now, it's a little tricky getting a transfer on such an uneven surface, especially something as strange as getting them down into the grooves of the basket, but it can be done. You just have to go very slow. And yep, just take your time and lift little by little. And then, as I got it, I either pushed the plastic part down into the groove and went to the next section, or used my fingers. And then little by little, just, especially once you get a good portion of it on, it does become a lot easier to be able to just kind of lift as you go. And then once that is completely done, just spray that with a clear coat. I like Rust-Oleum 2-time. That's kind of my go-to, but certainly you could wax it if you like that look and you want to give it a little bit more distressing. So I had a number of other items that I had used this transfer on in the past, a set of the books and a few other things in this vignette that I absolutely love. So that takes me on to the next project, which are these little tiny spindles I broke off of a bench that I had in my garden that was the worst for wear. Here is the same one at an antique store. Mine came from the dump and was trashed from the garden in many years of rain, so mine was nothing like this, but the same exact style. And I just took out the same linen paint that I have been using and dry brushed over a few, just to really highlight the beautiful shape of these little tiny spindles. And all I did was just take a few of these with the linen, and then I took a couple with a custom color that I had made up, which is a green, almost a pale sage green, almost a teal blue, to a white chalk paint to give this more of almost a robin's egg blue color. Those colors go well in my home, and I just really love the look of those colors. And then once they were dry, I went into my craft room and just took some twine, and I had some cardstock, so I just cut a few little really tiny pieces of cardstock, and then looked around to see what I might have to make just a couple of cute little hang tags to add to these little bundles. And then I just punched a hole in them and hung them on the top of each of the bundles. After I just took some script and some ink, just inked the background, and then I had gotten these cute little transfers on Amazon, I believe. I just transferred those on and added them to the bundles, and I think they're absolutely adorable. And I can use them just as a little bowl filler or on a tiered tray, or just to, lighten up a little area. Every time I see a broken crib or a chair at my dump, I take them for the spindles. Now here they are in my white ironstone, and I think they look absolutely adorable together with their sweet little hang tags on them. And then I put them here just in a couple of other little places, and I think they're really cute. And that takes me on to this wooden crate that my husband got at the dump. It has rope handles, and I cleaned it out really good and decided that I would use some wrapping paper that I had received a gift in some time ago, and decoupage the wrapping paper on. I have not done that before, and I have wanted to try it, and this was a good piece to try. So I painted just the two ends in a coordinating yellow, and then cut the wrapping paper to fit, for the most part, onto the front and back sides. And after I decoupaged that on and it dried thoroughly, I took the Icy Paris B stamp and stamped on both of the yellow ends, and then sanded all of the slats with a file. This works phenomenal if you have, especially one of the toenail files are fantastic for getting the decoupage paper off of anything wood or metal. Just use a downward motion once it's completely dry. And then I am not a fan of the bright yellows, so I took my antiquing wax and went over pretty much the whole thing to make that look much more aged and more vintage, and seal everything in. And here it is displayed. I almost never decorate with yellow or red, so this is new for me. So let me know what you think of that. That takes me on to this, my favorite project. I have these two wood tops of canisters, I believe. They came from the dump. They didn't have the glass canister with them, just the two wooden pieces. So took them home, washed them up, and then took that linen chalk paint, and I went ahead and dry brushed over both of them until I had the general coverage with some of the wood peeking through. And then went into my stash of a million wine corks that I also got at the dump, and I cut two of them in half. The key to this is finding some that are the same height and color. Color isn't as important in this particular case as height. And the two small ones cut in half, I glued onto the bottom of the small wood piece to make a little riser, and then I took 4 of the same size, regular sized corks, and put them on the larger one. And then I went over both of the little risers, and just around the outside edges and on the corks themselves, I took a mixture of antiquing and clear wax together, and I really wanted to make sure that the corks were a little bit darker, and so added some and then just sort of buffed that off, as well as the corners and the edges of that. And then once I was finished with that, I forget the name of that IOD transfer that I used on the basket, but I wanted to take the piece with the script that was left over, use just the script. So again, I have that little tiny piece left over for yet another project. I just transferred on the larger words on the bottom of the larger one and the smaller words on the smaller one. And that is all I did to this, other than sealing it with the Rust-Oleum 2x matte finish clear. I love the way that they came out. Absolutely going to keep these. These are some of my favorite items in my home. They look so nice, I think, in this vignette with the other items that I have. I do love wood and neutrals. It is my favorite combination, so that is definitely something that I will be keeping. But I would love to know what you think of today's What Would You Make? Please make sure you check out the other lovely creators in the playlist. If you are not subscribed, I would appreciate it if you would. Thanks so much for stopping by. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.